information on our best practices. So I'm just overwhelmed by the number of people who are here today. I think that's absolutely wonderful. It says how strong our future is for public procurement, not only today, but in the future. So best practices, and then the process, really, we've been focusing so much on compliance and regulations. And Grimm did not say that's bad. I'm just saying that we need to go beyond compliance and regulation in order to drive the value of public procurement. So we advance it by a number of things, whether it's global practices or position papers or white papers or research papers. I'll walk you through this very quickly, because if you're not aware of these tools that are available to you, I want you to know that they exist. Because the one thing that we can do is make sure we don't reinvent the wheel. You know, how many of you have grown staff? 10%. Your staff has grown 10%. Wonderful, that's great. A few of you. Most of us have maintained staff or have lost staff, and fortunately, all of the work that associated with it also went away, right? Right? It's not the case at all. So you hear this thing, you know, work smarter, not harder, you know, do more with less, blah, 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 right? The reality is, though, that these practices allow you, and these resources allow you not to have to reinvent the wheel, but to create some connections. So you're probably aware of, we begin with our core values in public procurement, the 6, which are accountability, ethics, impartiality, professionalism, service, and transparency. And those 6 values drive down into global practices. And again, Lisa will be here tomorrow to talk about these in more detail. We have 31 global practices that are available to you. And these are driven by you. They're driven by the members, the subject matter experts who provide input on what that practice should be. And you can see it's a standard practice to serve as the foundation for the work we do. So there's definitions, there's standards, there's context that are available in those best practices. Latest one that we issued was on information technology. It's in a series of 3 because technology is so critical to what we do. And Lisa was telling me, we were just down at Government Finance Officers Association in LA a couple days ago, and she says number 4 on IT is coming up. So John Walton has been a critical part of the global best practices. I think others in the room have been as well. But John, let me recognize John, because this is really important. First of all, he's one of my bosses, okay? John, please stand up. John's a member of our governing board. Great contributions that you've made to this project as well. So thank you very much. And you see IT hardware. So in addition, there's other resources that are available to you on the web. Most of these resources are available in the public domain. This is so important that regardless of whether you are a member of the Institute or not, we want to be able to put these tools in your hands because it's so critical to process. So it's everything from position papers and research papers. So the research studies that we've done recently are on compensation. That's not important to anyone. I know, you go in there and look and say, okay, what's everyone making, right? In my area. Best practices, procurement benchmarks, partnerships, public-private partnerships. There's a research paper on that, and sustainable procurement. Again, it's to give that perspective on practices and benchmarks. So where does the future hold in terms of process? Well, I believe that we have to move from that area of creating efficiency in technology and transparency. We have got to be able to take that data and make better decisions. We have the data that's available to us, but all too often I hear procurement folks say, oh, IT won't give us access to our own data. And I'm going, are you kidding me? That is your data that helps you drive better decisions. So make sure that as you think about the future and your role in it in terms of process, that you're really looking at data analytics and making better decisions as a result of that data. Best practices, we continue to develop those with Lisa and others, get those into standards. And really, we want to move process from outputs. You know, so how many purchase orders do you issue a year, to really looking at it from a results standpoint. So it's to achieve strategy, value, and results. That's the purpose of the process. When it comes to supplier relations, it's all about performance. So we're seeing more and more procurement officials who are engaged in that contract administration and performance, working in partnership with the supplier community to deliver the very best value for the organizations that they represent. Great video from both NASPO and MCAP. Really appreciate your support here, because the future really is about utilizing, to the extent that we can, cooperatives that are available to us. Because what that allows us to do is shift our resources in our own organizations to those very complex procurements that are a little bit more difficult to do on the cooperative side. So certainly collaboration and cooperative procurements, those are really important. And this last one is just maybe an aha moment for you, and it'll be a great conversation to have throughout this conference. I really think the day of commodity purchases is waning. Part of that is because the cooperatives do a great job of providing that type of service for us. But artificial intelligence and the ability to auto-replenish really is going to shift us out of a commodity market and much more into the complex services and solutions market. And that really is great news if we're ready for that future. But if your future has been, my role is to buy papers and pens and furniture, I want you to think, I want to challenge you to think differently about that, because I think the future is going elsewhere in terms of how we buy commodities. Okay, talent, the second. So we talked about process. What is happening with talent? We see in today a lot of generational workforce issues. A beautiful blend of generations that are in this room. Great that you're celebrating young professionals. Great that you celebrate seasoned professionals? Thank you very, very much. A little salt and pepper there. But we definitely have generational workforce issues that we will continue to grapple with, because people are looking for different results in their career path. And we'll talk about the career path in just a minute. A lot of vacancies that are occurring. I was down, this is my third stop. I've been on the road for 2 weeks. Started in Florida, and Mike Purdy was down with me in Fort Lauderdale. And there were some of the top talent in the state of Florida. I would say at least 10 people came up to me and said, this is my last FAPO conference. I'm retiring. Some of them are retiring in 30, 40, 60 days, or at the end of December. We are having a drain like nobody's business, because things are now doing better on a retirement fund, so we can afford to retire. What is this? Yes. Yes on the retirement fund. But this is an issue for us in terms of how we cultivate new talent for the future. And so we have to do work on succession planning to bring a new generation of public procurement professionals who are excited about making a difference, okay? So we know that the workforce is changing, and is changing rapidly at an accelerated rate of change. The digital global is having an impact, and the career spans are also having an impact as well. And so we know that lifelong learning really is the norm. Learning does not begin and end with going through like a certification process. And I've had conversations with folks, and hopefully no one in this room, but you don't have to raise your hand if I've had this conversation with you. I now have my CPPO, my CPPB, I'm done learning. Well, you're not. That was the beginning of the process, folks. That was the beginning of your lifelong journey. So you really have to look at this in terms of where your pathways are going to be. You can see 42% of millennials say that they're likely to leave a job because they're not learning fast enough. 36% want to obtain a license or certification. 55% want to maintain or improve their job skills. And this is the information that we have been receiving from our members, from you, and from your colleagues throughout the United States and Canada. This is what you have told us in terms of learning. You said that I want learning that is affordable, that fits within my budget. I want it accessible based on when I am available to take classes. I want it to be flexible based on my timelines. So in some cases, I want it to be in person. We all know that as adult learners, we do much better when we can have that interaction. But in-person training is not for everyone, right? You may be a young professional with a young family, can't travel, can't get to those kinds of meetings. You have so many work demands. Because I know for everyone that goes to a 3-day class, all the emails are taken everyone takes care of your emails and the paperwork while you're going to learning and education, right? Doesn't happen. And so there's pressures that you have in order to be successful. And so I'm looking for it to be flexible. I also want it to be customized to my career, and it really ties in with the relevancy as well. So I want learning that really focuses in on the jobs, the roles that I am performing today and that I aspire to perform in the future. So this is what members have told us and why we have developed kind of a new learning and credentialing system. As it relates to recognition, our members have also told us that we want to integrate learning with recognition, that those two come hand in hand. I learn, and then I'm recognized for what I learn. I want choice in how I get to be recognized. I want to the extent that you can, I want you to limit the barriers and provide clear pathways. And that issue of pathways is the focus of this new program. How many of you were with us in Nashville? Quite a few of you. In Nashville, which is the NAGP Forum last August, we introduced Learning Reimagined. This is a component of it. It's recognition reimagined. We believe that this is the future of public procurement as it relates to the development of talent. And so what this means is learning is about enhancing the workforce competencies that you need in order to be successful on the job. And it's recognizing those competencies that you have achieved. So learning, they talk about flexibility, is about learning anywhere, anytime, and any way. And that recognition is not a one-stop shop. There isn't just one way that you want to be recognized, but there's multiple pathways, multiple choices, multiple options that are available to you through certificates, specializations, and certification. So about, now it's been maybe a couple weeks, NIGP did a launch of Pathways. Pathways is integrating professional development with credentialing. It's integrating those two components together based on the feedback that you as members have given us. So it's a competency-based learning and credentialing pathways that's personalized, it's customized for every phase of every part of your career in public procurement. And we know that for some of us, our career in public procurement is going to be about 4 or 5 years, and then we're going to move on to something else. We know for some of us, your career path will be 20, 30 years in public procurement. And so what we need to do as a professional organization is to provide all things to all people. That career path of just a very short term or a long career path. And that's what Pathways is all about. So it's integrated. It's thinking holistically in the big picture of what we are doing in an organization, integrating learning with credentialing so that those two pieces are picked. And that was my first warning, wasn't it? Good. Okay, we're doing well. And it's competency-based. We're going to talk what's the difference between knowledge and competency in just a minute, but it really is that blending of knowledge and then applying that knowledge into skills that you utilize in order to develop performance in the workplace. Here's what the bosses have told us, quite honestly, because not only have we surveyed members, but we've gone to the bosses of public procurement. And they say, it's great that my employees have certification. That's wonderful. But what I'm really looking for is that when they are performing on the job in that 9 to 5 job, 5 days a week, that they are driving success. They're delivering results. That's what the bosses are looking at, and that's called competency. And by the way, we didn't make up the word competency. If you've been around and have looked at other associations, many associations are looking at competency-based models as opposed to knowledge-based models. For example, a lot of conversations as we looked at this with the Society for Human Resource Management, or SHRM. And SHRM has gone to that exact same model, competency-based, to understand why there is that difference. So it's competency-based, and it is accessible and flexible. So what we really want to do is to provide you, based on the feedback that you gave us, 6 elements. Folks have said, tell me what I need to know today and into the future for my career development. So it provides a career development pathways. It creates an area of affordable pricing, that it's relevant to the work that I do today, that it's flexible, that it's credible, and instant recognition. By the way, I'll share these slides with you, so don't sit there trying to scribble. We'll get that to you. Don't know how you're posting on the site, but we'll get that to you. And again, what the bosses have told us, I want to build a stronger workforce. If you were worried about it, can you imagine the bosses of public procurement? Could be the city manager, it could be the finance officer, it could be the county administrator. They're also worried about a stronger workforce, and not just in procurement, but elsewhere. And those of you who have been around for a number of years, you know this is a big issue in state and municipal governments, right? They need to develop more capable leaders. Who is going to come after Alice when Alice retires in 2 or 3 years? Now, I don't really talk about this in a slide, but this leadership development piece is very, very critical to NIGP and to the board. Last year, we said that we wanted to build multiple phase opportunities on leadership development. And I don't talk about it too much here. I'd be glad to do a sidebar conversation. But there is a Leadership Essentials, which is actually tutorials that are available to you for a full year. We continue to add into that library. So there are all those kinds of learning skills that you want to develop on your own, on demand, whenever you want to be available for it. We also are launching a Leader's Edge program. It's a 12-month program for aspiring leaders. And Camber and I were talking about that earlier. We were hoping that we would hit 40 individuals throughout the United States that wanted to try out for this pilot program. It's an application process. Right now, we're sitting at 71 individuals who are looking for the 40 slots. This is great news, because it means that people are hungry for that professional development and that leadership. They see their role as aspiring to be the next CPO for their organizations. That's really good news, because this is what the bosses are looking for. They're looking for more capable leaders, they're looking for a stronger workforce, and to elevate the image of public procurement. So, what is Pathways? 4 elements. The first element, the foundation, is based on the public procurement competency framework. Notice I'm not using the word body of knowledge. I'm talking about a competency framework. And on that framework, 3 options. I want to go back to, what did you tell us? I want flexibility, I want options, I want choice. Okay? So it's all about providing choice depending upon where you are in your career and where you plan to be. So it's an option for certificates, it's an option for specializations, and it's an option for certification as well. We'll break down each one of these. So where does the competency research come from? Anyone hear of the Volcker Alliance? Okay, we need to get more hands on it. Thank you, Brian. Good piece of information. There's some great research on it. Who has heard of Paul Volcker? A couple more hands. Paul Volcker was the chair of the Federal Reserve. Very, very concerned about public service. And he actually did a study through his alliance with Public Spend Forum to look at the competencies that individuals in public procurement have in order to be most effective on the job. And if you go to the research results, you will be astounded that in many, many areas of things that we think are really critical in public procurement, that about 24, 30, 35% of the workforce is competent in that area. He says, time out. This is a big, big issue. That if we're going to have an impact on what we do in public procurement, then we need to raise the competency levels of those in federal, state, and local level. And so they developed this piece of research on competencies, and with it, they created a competency model that has been proposed by not only Volcker Alliance, but Public Spend Forum. And IGP looked at that and we said, that's great. We partnered with them. Let's expand the competency framework a little bit more based on what members have told us. So it's focused on that workforce performance and competency. And remember, what competency is it's knowledge connected to skills, connected to performance. Performance are those outcomes and results that you achieve. So it's not just knowledge, but it's the other two in combination. So what does the competency framework look like? It is 7 focus areas, as you can see on this wheel. Each one of those focus areas has a series of competencies built in them. I'll show you some examples. But by the way, just as an infomercial, everything that I'm talking about, you will see on a microsite on the homepage of NIGP. It says Pathways, Learn More, and then you can actually see the competency framework. And if you click into each one of these 7, you will get the competencies that are part of that process. So if you want to take a look at that later on, that's great. So 7 focus areas. There are competencies in there, total of 33 that are in that wheel. And the idea is to be able to learn each of these competencies in a very modular fashion. So each of these competencies can sit as a standalone piece of learning. Now keep in mind that not all competencies are alike, right? So some competencies can be taught with just kind of a tutorial where you do some reading and some exercises and you're done in 2 hours. And some competencies are a lot more detailed. It may take 5 or 6 hours or a couple weeks, depending upon the competency. But within that, each one of these is taught in a modular fashion. So it's self-guided, it's group assignments, it's case studies, experiential activities to help you develop those skills and competencies you need to be successful in the future of public procurement. So let's take a look at what are these. Here's the competency on leadership, and it's the area. And you can see there are 5 competencies within that. Driving change, communication strategies, problem solving, talent recruitment, and relationship management. Now look at the beauty of the choice. I could send you to a 3-day class away from your office to teach you about leadership in the organization. And you sit in that 3-day class, and the one thing you needed was on day 3 from 1 to 3, and it's on problem solving. That's the only thing I needed, but I spent 3 days and a ton of money to go for that education. Under this new model, you can zoom right in, laser focused on problem solving and critical thinking, and pick up that competency by itself. Because these are disconnected from each other. We can bundle them, we can stack them together, but they do serve independently. So rather than sending you to a class where you're learning all 5, you can do that as well. But I can really focus on a particular area where I feel like I need some assistance. So again, it's all about choice and flexibility and accessibility. And by the way, each of these competencies would be available online, and then we can bundle these competencies. I'll show you an example of that for in-person training as well. Let's take a look at another one. Strategy, mission, public benefit, transformation, social responsibility and alignment. Oh, Grimm, I know the first 2. Just help me on social responsibility. There's a competency for that. You can go right in, get that competency, and be recognized for it. Or planning analysis. requirements, standardization, market analysis, cost price value analysis, spend analysis, and risk analysis. Again, laser focus. Volcker Alliance says about one in 4 of individuals that they surveyed are competent in the area of market analysis. That says that 3 out of 4 of us really have not developed our competency in terms of that particular area. And the flexibility of pathways is that you can zoom right in on it, okay? Here's examples of policy and legislation. Enabling regulations, ethics, legislation, program implementation, and internal customers. So you can see that within the framework of the 7 areas, there's competencies built within each one of these. How does that tie into the certificate programs? Well, it is stacked. And again, the beauty of this is that you can begin and end wherever you choose to do, right? At level 1, when you complete one of those competencies, so let's go back to critical thinking. You take a learning module on critical thinking. Each one of the competencies has an assessment afterwards to make sure that you understood the material and could practice it. When you complete that, you get a competency badge. How many of you have heard of digital badges? Okay, I need to give you a little lesson on digital badges. This is coming down the road, folks. The beauty of a digital badge is that it is resident not only on your learning management system with NIGP called Aspire, but it is transportable. So that digital badge belongs to you. You can put it on your LinkedIn webpage. Any of your social media, you can show, hey, by the way, I have a competency in critical thinking. Now, the beauty of this on the digital badge is that when you click into it, because it's technology, right? You click into it, and it tells the reader of that digital badge what competencies you learned in order to achieve it. It's the metadata is put right in there. So rather than just saying, okay, I have a certificate on my wall, what does that mean? You can literally, through the digital badge process, click in there and say, these are the outcomes that I achieved. So it's very much in tune with where education and learning is going in the future. So at level 1, you get a digital badge for that competency. And if you choose to do so, we will have an opportunity for you to stack a number of those competency badges into a certificate. So you can get a certificate as a result. Or at level 3, you can stack a number of those course certificates to get to a designation. But this is all about you and your career path, okay? We are not suggesting that everyone has to go and get a course certificate or a designation. It's up to you. It's your career. You decide how you want to choose that flexibility, okay? So, certificate programs, we are stacking 4 competencies into a course certificate called Strategy and Policy. And we're actually offering that pre-forum in Austin as a 2-day class. And it actually stacks the 4 competencies. So you get the competency badges and you get the course certificate, which is also a digital badge. So you'll have that on your learning management system, and then it's accessible any way that you want to play it through. Then there's a second one that's coming in on planning analysis that will be available in October. Sourcing and contracting will be in November. Those 3 course certificates stack into this designation that's available. Now don't get hung up on this, because this is now offered, this is going to be offered on an in-person, but it is also going to be available digitized. If you don't want to get the designation, that's fine. It's your pathway that you choose based on your career and where you are in the roles that you play. But that's the certificate program. So let's talk about specializations. Specializations really allows you to delve deep into a number of specialty topics. So again, this goes back to the seasoned individual who says, you know, I have my certification, but I'm hearing this whole thing on procurement technology. And I really need some help because we're buying more on technology. I need some help in there. What's available for me? That's where specializations come in, because they delve deep into that particular topic area. So you can say they're standalone. Again, it's all about flexibility and choice, right? You don't have to take any of the competencies in order to go right into the specialization. Okay? So they're not predicated on any stacked or any certificates you have. Again, you get the specialization credential by doing the associated learning and doing the assessments. And then you get a digital badge for that as well. So imagine you can have a digital badge for critical thinking, and you could have a digital badge for one of the specializations. It's about you. I know this is, Grimm, you're just regurgitating that the entire time. This is about you. It's the choice that you have as a professional, because it's your future in public procurement. One size does not fit all. So the first specialization will be on technology procurements. We're actually offering that pre-form as a class. And, but again, that's just on the pilot. So these programs will also be available online, and we can actually host them through chapters as well. So that's fine. So there's any number of ways in which these programs get delivered. And then a specialization in public construction procurements, that's the one that we're targeting for in Chicago next August of 2020. These are determined based on the feedback that you have given us as members of where you need these specializations. So that's how that one works. And then let's talk about certification. So we will be offering, in about this time next year, a new credential called the NIGP Certified Procurement Professional, or an NIGP CPP. So why are we doing this? The first one is on impact. The scary news is that we're a professional society, we're all professionals, and yet only 22% of our members are professionally certified. That means 3 out of 4 any room that you pull out, 3 out of 4 have absolutely zero recognition to say, I'm really good at what I do. There is no pathway other than certification. Here's the other piece of kind of interesting news. It was 24% 2 years ago. So it's declining, not growing. So folks have said, Grimm, why is this important? Why would you have your CEO be satisfied with not feeding 3 out of 4 of you in this room? Because we've got to find ways in which you can be recognized for the learning that you've achieved. And so that's a critical issue, is only 22%, less than 1 out of 4 are professionally certified. We also need to really change the focus and the comprehension on it. So again, it's not about body of knowledge, it's about competencies. That's what the bosses have told us. We want the individual to be able to perform effectively on the job 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. And we want to expand not just the procurement techniques, not just understanding sourcing and RFPs and contract administration and needs requirements, but what are the other soft skills that you need in order to be most effective on the job? So what do we do about leadership? What do we do about business skills and acumen? What do we do about strategies? We need to expand what is offered in a certification program, because that's what the bosses are looking for. That's what you're looking for as well. You want the leadership part of it as well. It's again aligning. So if you have options in terms of learning, and you can go to certificates and specializations, these become integrated components. Again, they're standalone, but let's say, for example, a certificate is one pathway that takes you to certification, if in fact you're not eligible for certification, okay, in terms of what those minimum standards are. So it provides that alignment. And then customer-centric, a singular portal that's available to connect all of your learning and your recognition. So rather than having to repeat all of the learning that you've done and to have to enter it into a separate database, all those databases get connected into a single portal. So when you take a class, automatically you're picking up your certification and your recertification points. So those are the 4 primary reasons on why a new certification. As I said, this is not going to be available until spring of 2020. We're announcing it now so that you can think about where your options are. And let me be very, very clear. Those of you like me who have earned their CPPO and CPPB, great. Keep it. Keep working on it. This is an option. This is not a replacement. Those of you who are considering getting your O and B, continue to do that. We will work with you on your journey. It's important, okay? But again, this is an option, and it's an option to expand the pathways and the comprehensiveness of the program. And there are a few things that need to happen, which also require some feedback from you as the members. There's a practice analysis that occurs that will begin. It's actually begun now, and will go through the fall period. And then we're going to do the test administration, which is all the the writing of the questions, and then the standard setting. So there's a lot of stuff between today and when we launch. But when we launch, we will be offering a way in which either CPBOs or Bs can bridge to this new certificate called the CPP. What a bridge does, it says, hey, listen, I learned all of these. I demonstrated the competency because I have my O. What is in the CPPB that is not in the O? And that gap becomes part of the bridge examination. So it's an abbreviated exam. So you're not retested on sourcing and methods of solicitation. You're tested on the things that were not in the original one. That's a requirement in order to get accredited by ANSI, which is an absolutely critical component for NIGP, is to have this certification program recognized in meeting the standards for professional certification. To help you who are O's and B's, if you choose to bridge, you're not required to bridge, okay? Let's be very clear on that. But if you choose to do so, we want to help you with that. And so we will provide free virtual prep. We'll provide free exam fees and free application fees for the first 16 months of the program through June of 2021 to help you with that opportunity. Okay, because the last thing we want to do is create a barrier to your success. So the bridge exam, March 2020, we will have the prep guides for you. And April, that first exams will be available. The comprehensive exams, the full range of it, will be May and June of 2020. One last thing about this, because I know a lot of questions I get is, so what's the eligibility requirements on the new one? I don't know. That's part of the practice analysis that comes up with that. There is an autonomous NIGP certification commission that is being convened, and they will make those decisions. So will a degree be required? I don't know. Will there be pathways to it? I don't know, but the research says, or the member feedback is, that if I don't have a degree, is there a pathway to get me into the CPP? That certainly is a critical component that we want to be able to build in that system. But there's a lot of questions that are still to be determined because we're in the development process. If you really are struggling with insomnia, go to the NIGP website. The FAQs are pretty comprehensive, and the FAQs will drive a lot of those answers for you. And your feedback also helps, because we picked up and go, oh wow, we don't have that in the FAQs, the frequently asked questions, so we'll fit that in there. Okay, and again, I'm going to be here all day today, this afternoon, for the evening, and tomorrow, so please stop me and ask any questions. So what does the future hold in terms of talent? We need to make sure that we have a prepared workforce, that we provide internships. We really need to focus in on competencies in addition to knowledge, and we need to have succession planning for the leaders. That's where we need to be in the future. By developing career pathways, not every pathway is going to be the same. And you look at the beauty of it, if you're a CPO in an organization, you can take that competency model and say, listen, in the city of Portland, I want my entry-level buyers to have this competency and this competency and this competency. And you have now built a career path for those individuals that are just starting in their career. And now that they've mastered that, I can pick up 3 or 4 more competencies. Again, if you just think of the permutations, and by the way, I have no idea what that word means. I failed math. But I think it stands, there's a number of ways, infinite number of ways you can put things together. And that's true with these competencies as well. They give you choice and to give you options. Last one is authority. So today we still think of our role as a compliance officer. You know, we are the profession that says no all the time, and so people want to work around us. And we are somewhat risk adverse because we are not encouraged to innovate. But what we need to do is to work with the bosses of public procurement and other structures that are available so that they understand the value that you are delivering to the bottom line of good government. And so we have developed a public procurement guide. If you haven't looked at this, it's a great tool. It's available also online. It's free. And it talks about the 10 things you, as a senior administrative officer in an organization or an elected official, need to know. And we are sharing this with our colleagues in our other associations that we work for because they need to understand your value. You know your value, right? You know your value. We don't do a good job of marketing our own value, but I'm going to talk about that in just a second, okay? But we need to encourage them of where the value is. So, building an intentional pathway with Government Finance Officers Association. How many of you have heard of GFOA? Yes, quite a few of you. So I was just speaking to GFOA about this exact process. 400 people in the audience. So 400 CPOs, public finance officers, understanding the value that NIGP, and more importantly, that public procurement delivers to the bottom line of government. And they were keenly interested in things like the best practices and even some discussion on what is learning and credentialing, how do those all connect. So we have a memorandum of understanding with GFOA. And why? Because the latest survey says 60% of us report to them. So if we're going to be about advocacy and authority, we have got to get into their minds what you do so effectively every day. And you're not compliance. Yes, you are. You are value. That's what you're driving for the organizations that you serve. So you can see that we're working with them on the standards and practices. They're going to be joining us on the development of the practices. We are going to co-develop educational materials, again, to help the CFO and the finance officer understand the value of public procurement. We're going to be doing webinars, virtual events, and do a lot of research and knowledge sharing because we need to increase the size of the net so that we get GFOA connected with it. We also have a partnership with ASPA. ASPA is the American Society for Public Administration. Why is this important to us? Because ASPA represents the professors who are teaching public administration in our colleges and universities throughout the United States and Canada. And why is this important? Well, why are we generating people with master's degrees in public administration who learn about public finance, they learn about budgeting, and there isn't a single coursework, not even a single class on public procurement. Oh, by the way, $3.2 trillion is driven by just state and local procurement annually. Now, how farcical is this that in public administration, which I have a master's in public administration, and not a single class on a profession that spends $3.2 trillion. This has got to change, which is the reason why this partnership with ASPA is so important. And by the way, again, I'm just so proud of what we do with the governing board and the work that John does. We have 3 thought leaders. They're basically are individuals who are not practitioners, but they provide perspectives to help generate the discussion about what we're doing strategically as a governing board. The CEO for ASPA sits on the NIGP board. Why? Because we need to hear from him what we need to be able to do in colleges and universities to make a difference. And by the way, starting in July of 2019, the deputy CEO for GFOA is on NIGP's board. The purpose here is to make sure that we are not preaching and singing to our own choir, but that everyone understands the value that you're providing in public procurement. So, where do I think the future hold? If we begin to do the work that we need to do, which is to get our voice out to the bosses that we represent, we need to focus on empowerment, empowering you in public procurement to make a difference. Look at the strategic relevance. Get that point where you are a trusted advisor in that organization, that you aligned with the citizens' values and priorities, that you are at that table when they make the decision. Let's not have public procurement be at the end of the process, but at the beginning. So your success, your future is now based on these three bedrocks of public procurement. In terms of practice, I want you to help Lisa and John and others in this room on contributing to those best practices. Measure results, not outputs. Don't come and tell us, we did 10,000 purchase orders. Who cares? Really? Does it make a difference? Does it affect the bottom line? What is the result that you are achieving in public procurement? Collaborate, work with each other, utilize the cooperatives, connect with municipalities to save that time, money, and effort. Leverage technology to make decisions, not because it's efficient, but because the technology, the data is telling you new information on decisions you need to make about the future of your organization. And get away from commodity buying, quite honestly, folks. It is waning. Get really into that focus of complex solutions. In terms of talent, look at your own career strategy. Look at it in relationship to pathways. Make those connections. Again, it's choice, it's flexibility, it's accessibility, not one size fits all. Consider your leadership options in your organization. Strengthen your competencies. It's a lifelong journey, okay? It doesn't end until you decide that you're going to retire, okay? Continue to do that journey. Choose recognition. Be recognized for the work you do, and then help your organization plan for succession. And then really want to, from authority, demand a seat at the table. Demand a seat at the table. This is very, very important. Be a trusted advisor, be relevant strategically, be innovative, and aligned with those customer values and priorities. It really is about a mindset change. You know, what do you do? How do you impact the citizens that you serve in the communities that you serve? You're moving from this buying of goods and services. We got to move away from that. That's important. But we got to think our mindset that we impact the organizations that we have, that we do. When I talk to you, I'm going to ask you two things. So watch, you can avoid me, okay, for the next 36 hours. I'm going to ask you, what do you do, and what does the future hold for you? What do you do, and what the future holds for you? Because you've got to think about impact. You could say that you purchase asphalt and concrete. You could say that. Or you could say that you're enhancing the community's transportation system. Do you see the difference in the impact that you're making? You're providing something for your citizens. You could say you select lawn maintenance providers. You do that. Or you could tell me that you promote health, exercise, and quality of life. Tell me that you can promote health without having an important playground or park. You impact that. Tell me that you purchase chemicals. You probably do. Or tell me that you provide safe, clean water, because that's what you do. That's your impact. Tell me you buy books and supplies. Sure. But tell me more importantly that you enable student achievement, particularly those of you that are in K-12. Okay? Tell me that you purchase uniforms. Or tell me that you keep first responders safe. Understand the mindset? This is very, very important because you do have an impact on the works that you do every day. So impact it through authority and talent and practice. Hopefully I said some things to kind of stimulate your thoughts. That's what we should be doing at the beginning. I appreciate this time. Look forward to having personal conversations. Are we out of town, or do we have any time for Q&A? Where are we? We have 3 minutes. Do you have a 3-minute question? Yes, sir.
Yeah, I mean, I think NIGP does great things. But I think there is one thing that's missing.
Go ahead.
That's with the credentialing.
Okay.
To require a degree. I don't know what influence you have. I think it excludes a lot of people that might, be just as smart.
Right. So the question is, what is about the degree requirement for CPPO and then an associate's for CPBB? So we've raised this issue with the UPPCC and haven't been successful with it, to be honest with you. Well, I think there's a lot of certification programs do require a degree, and that's a way in which you advance the profession. Right. So I think the issue really here, and again, I don't have the answer, but by having our board, our certification commission be able to look at that and say, there has to be a pathway. So if you don't have a degree, there's another way in which you can come in and be recognized. That's certainly part of the discussion that we're having now.
How does this group influence that?
This group right here?
How can we go to that board?
Sure. So one of them is going to be in the practice analysis when that comes out, because that's getting feedback from you on what you do and the years of work experience and the education that you have. And then you have a collaborative discussion on this. You've got John, who's not on the commission, but he's on the governing board. This is what you've told us, which is the reason why we've built a system that goes around it. So, by the way, you are not the first person who's told me this. And quite honestly, I think it's driving the reduction in the number of people who are certified. And most people who have said, someone said to me, I can't remember who it was, is it, well, you probably took a lot of bruises in the last 2 weeks. Not really. I've had more people be excited about, wow, I can influence my own pathways and my own decisions. And they said, really, I do want to go through some kind of certification. So can you help me in that pathway? So absolutely heard you. I can't give you an ironclad answer right now, but I absolutely hear you, and you're not alone in that voice. Yes?
I would suggest there's one other angle that needs to get raised as this discussion goes forward.
Yes.
And that's diversity in our profession. Frequently we find that individuals who come from disadvantaged backgrounds, one kind or another, do not have those degrees. Mom and dad didn't help it and they couldn't afford it. So another angle for us to put forward is that we want to achieve that diversity, and that means we have to provide pathways that are alternative. Maybe we maintain those that do get us a degree with a certification, but provide an alternative. So that those staff members that I have that have that diverse background have those great things that they need to have.
Great feedback. Yeah. And that really is the intent, is regardless of where you've been in your professional career, you have that opportunity to grow. And again, for some people, it's not about a certification. They're not interested in that. They want to get in there, do a competency learning module, and then get out. But there's so many options that are available for you. I mean, I want to be, I don't have that many more years, about 6 or 7 more years. I want to be in a situation where I can come back to you in 2025 and say, hey, by the way, 3/4 of you are being recognized some way as being a professional, whatever that pathway is. We can't be satisfied with 22%, folks. We cannot be satisfied with 22%. So I think we're out of time. Thank you very much for inviting me. This has been great. And please stop by and pull me off and have these sidebar conversations. The information you give us helps cultivate our decisions in the future. So thanks again.
Thank you, Rick. We have a couple of appreciation
gifts
for you. I took one of the pieces out of there, so you may not be able to.
Thanks, Eric.
Okay, next up, we have a session in the vendor room, and we also have some more coffee and some snacks for you over there. So go on over to the vendor room, visit them, and cause trouble, and buy tickets often in the lots. And then we're back here at 10 o'clock.